So butterflies and moths arose from caddisflies and some other creatures that were not really that flying that much. And butterflies and moths, they started out sort of more like crawling or smaller species, and they kind of evolved into the daytime flight. Particularly the butterflies evolved into the daytime flight a little bit later than the moths. So nocturnal habits is thought to be an ancestral characteristic, and then the butterflies ultimately learned to live during the daytime. Sometimes adopted flashy colors to avoid predators and that kind of thing. So, can an extinct one pass on a trait to another one? So, I mean, if they're extinct, they can't breed, right? But I mean, some of the species that have gone extinct, they're genetically similar to other species that are close today, so they can't really pass something on literally, but they often carry sort of the similarity that they had in the past. They can carry it forward. So that's sort of how that might work. Oh, so there's quite a few specimens in the collection here where people have done like breeding experiments. And so they might have said, well, I'm interested in looking at, say, these banding patterns in this butterfly. Some of them have a white band, some of them don't have no band at all. Well, how does that come about? And so if they keep breeding them, they can then count and see, well, though the frequency of the white bands is more like this, they can breed them in different directions. Some of the cool stuff that's been done here is there's some moths, some brightly colored moths that have like really big, like they look like eye spots on the wings. And so they bred them to selective breeding to try and make the eye spots have like big, as if they were tearing, like they were crying, or if they were split eyes or something. And so over many generations of breeding, you can actually get these things to change their pattern pretty well. It's kind of like breeding dogs and other things. It's kind of, selective breeding, you get very different, bunch of different types. You can do the same thing with insects. I think the answer to that is probably no. You mean like, can we resuscitate an insect that is from amber, for example, and try and bring it back to life or something? I mean, I think it's an interesting thought. I'm not sure that how realistic that really would be, but I think probably they wouldn't be able to be resurrected. So I don't know if that answered your question, but oh, um, that's a tricky question. I mean, I'd say it's not great overall. It's certainly not, oh, woe is me and complete doom, but it's certainly the case that their habitats have been destroyed and degraded over time. And, it's a lot of challenges with urbanization and things like that. So, and particularly a lot of butterflies and a lot of other insects and lots of things require sort of a fairly large habitat, and having it chopped up into little pieces and things like that makes it very difficult. So just all around, the populations have been declining, but I'm hopeful that everything won't go extinct. I mean, that would be catastrophic. I don't think that'll be the case, but definitely most things are showing some declines over the last, certainly over 30, 50, 60, 100 years, that kind of thing. Where they are and everything. So I think one of the things would be to certainly to try and avoid as much habitat destruction as possible. Certainly the use of chemical pesticides and other noxious substances and things outside in the environment are clearly generally not good. I mean, it may be difficult to tie them to specific problems, with particular species, but it's clear that they have an impact. So anything that we can do to kind of maintain the environment in what state it is right now, even if it's somewhat degraded, is good. And also ways of just connecting parts of the environment together. Like you've probably heard of the pollinator pathway. And so like if you can make connections for species to have basically a larger geographic range, if you will, by dint of the pollinator pathway sort of an idea, that's a really great thing that can be done. It's easy to do because you could do it in backyards. Like you don't have to like buy a preserve or something. You could actually do it on a
ecosystem?
Oh, okay. So most insects in general, they form sort of the basal levels of the food web. And so even things, for example, like mosquitoes or midges or small critters or whatnot, they're all integral parts of the entire food web. And so, for example, birds, other small mammals, other vertebrates, other insects, in fact, depend upon the smaller creatures themselves. So if those sort of basal elements are gone, then the upper levels of the food chain are at risk at that point. So it's like pulling out the rug from underneath a big stack of cards or something. You don't really want to do that. You got to. Otherwise, the stuff at the top is not going to work, and the stuff in the middle is not going to work very well.
Yeah, so everything's just going to fall down?
Yeah, it could fall down. Easy.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you for your time.
Oh, sure.
All the pictures.